It's important to find your feet on the ground or your butt on the seat, some nice, stable support. When we practice meditation, we are practicing letting go of our narrative of our life, that is, letting go of the problems we're trying to solve. And letting go is the most minimal, ultimately, it's the most minimal activity, right? It's just the stopping the work. It's the stopping the struggle. It's like just pulling your foot off the gas pedal. So it's not really a problem to solve. How do I let go? You let go by not holding on, that's all. But to do that, one of the main obstacles is this sense of, well, it's anxiety, it's fear. And so we need to give our body a sense of safety. And one thing is to give the body a sense of groundedness. So a seat, a ground, a floor, maybe something against your back if that's how you're sitting, or a nice straight spine. These give you a sense of stability. We don't have to have perfect stability, but we want to move in that direction. We don't want to have rigid stability. Rigid actually feels less safe because it could just break in any moment. So you want a nice flexible, like a tree trunk. You can allow the movement of the world, but it's stable and it's rooted. I like that word too. You feel rooted in your seat. In a sense, you can maybe feel roots sort of coming out of your feet and into the ground, or out of your spine and into the ground, into the seat beneath you. We're preparing the ground to receive us as we let go. Now, the natural mode of the human mind is, when I say, for instance, what we're going to practice is letting go of problems, is the mind now goes, okay, how do I do that? What do I have to do to let go of the problems? How do I push them away? How do I hide them? How do I stop caring about them? How do I, right? All these things you think you have to do to let go of a problem. But all of those are ways of just creating a new problem. So letting go is just opening the fist. And whatever's in that fist now can drop away, or it can stay in the hand, or it can fly away, or it can fly away and come back. We're just letting go. We're not holding on anymore. Now, this is so counter to our habits that we don't actually know how to do this for most things. Usually we can get a taste of it and we're like, oh yeah, that is different. But then we don't know how to stay there, because our habit is to continually return to our problem-solving mode. So the magic of meditation, the magic power that is taught in meditation, is that awareness solves the problem. So if we're stuck in a problem-solving mode, can we become awake to the problem solving? That's all we have to do. We just notice the mind solving a problem, thoughts happening, or pictures happening, or we notice tension or emotion in the body that is trying to solve a problem. We can become awake to the object in the world, either internally represented or as we actually experience it, like could be the sound of my voice, could be the problem. We become awake to the object that has become a problem. And that's all we have to do. We don't have to stop the thoughts. We don't have to stop the feelings. We don't have to make them better or worse. We just become awake to what's happening. And as we become awake, what you're becoming awake to is the self that is in a small experience. It is, you're becoming awake to the shrinking activity of the mind and emotions. And there's nothing else you have to do. There's nothing really wrong with having a problem. There's nothing wrong with solving problems. There is suffering in getting stuck in solving a problem. There's nothing wrong with Tetris. It's a perfectly fun game. But if you're stuck playing Tetris because you can't get out of the loop, then some agitation starts to arise. And so one way to do this is just notice how your experience shrinks and expands. As you're sitting, notice if your experience is shrinking into a problem. I wish Chris would shut up. I gotta be more comfortable in my body. My back hurts. I don't understand. I'm confused. Okay, all very natural things. Notice if they are arising, but notice if they are also shrinking you into them. But don't resist that. Just be awake to it. Oh yeah, I'm getting shrunk into the, I wish he'd stop talking, or I'm confused, or my back hurts. Yeah, I'm just sort of stuck here. I keep coming back to it. And I know as a meditator, I'm supposed to not get stuck on my pain in my back. I'm supposed to go back to my breath or something. Okay, now you can see. Can you see the size of your experience? Not the exact size, but the feeling of being shrinking down. If you can become awake to that, you will start to notice that a little bit of your control starts to ease. A little bit of the clamping experience starts to soften, and you might actually start to feel your experience get a little bit wider. But you're not forcing it to get wider. You're just becoming awake to the fluctuation of your attention. On certain meditation practices, we're trying to intentionally shrink our attention down to one object. That's not what we're doing today. But when we do that, what we're doing is we're weakening our habits to shrink into other objects. We are picking an object that we are intentionally shrinking into to give us some freedom from all the things that control us. But it's actually an indirect path to doing what we're doing today, which is just becoming awake to how our attention gets pulled by the magnetism of thought and feeling and loud experience. And your experience can start to feel stuck. It can feel stuck in a small place. But if you're really awake to it, you'll start to notice that it's not stuck, that it's shrinking and expanding a little bit all the time, that it's organic, that it's alive. You may notice suddenly it gets very wide. Suddenly you're able to feel the whole of the room, and you feel the whole of your body, and you'll hear all the things in the environment. Maybe just for a second. Maybe that won't happen, but it might. And then you might be like, I want to stay here in this amazing wide space. And it just shrinks right down the second you do that. Because now you're shrunk down into, I want to stay here. And that's okay. Now you just notice that shrinking down. Awareness is the magic medicine. When you're fully aware of the causes of your suffering and also the causes of your delight and your joy, then your body will naturally retrain itself to move towards joy and happiness. But it can only do that if you're awake to the causes. And you can only become awake to the causes by being awake moment by moment to what's happening, not intellectually figuring it out, literally experiencing it. Just like intellectually figuring out that touching the stove will hurt you is not nearly as good an educator as touching the stove and feeling the pain. This is the magic power of awareness that we surrender when we give our attention to the same old problems. By now bringing more and more things into awareness, we get a deeper and deeper education into our life. This is actually a fairly advanced practice. So if this is something that is challenging for you today, or you've just never done anything like this, one thing you can do is you can start practicing on your breath. You can bring your attention to your breath, say just in your belly. You can breathe in and you can breathe out. And try and hold your attention there. And then as you breathe out, you can see, how wide can I feel the breath? That is, can I feel the breath in my whole body? Can I feel it in my whole belly? Can I feel it in my whole torso? And then you bring it back to just the belly as you breathe in again. So it would be in the belly, out in the belly, whole body, or whole belly, or whole torso. Starting to get some practice and familiarity with the sense of attention expanding and shrinking. So that you can notice that any small experience is actually inside of a bigger experience just waiting to be felt. Just like any patch of the ocean is inside the ocean. And we artificially draw boundaries around parts of our experience. That's what our attention does. And that is a solution evolution came up with to help us solve problems. It said, it's going to be useful if we can ignore most of the ocean to solve this problem. And that is very useful. But it's not necessarily happiness in creating. So we're doing one of two things. We're just noticing the size of our experience. And if that's just too amorphous or vague of an instruction, you can notice your breath, maybe in your belly or in your nostrils as it comes in and as it goes out. And then noticing, how wide can I experience the breath in between? Breathing out and widening our experience of the breath. And then letting it shrink back down as we breathe in again. And we can do both of these things. If you start to do the breath exercise, notice, do you get stuck in the problem of doing the breath exercise right? Or are you actually feeling the breath? This in out whole body practice is something I've been teaching for a while. It comes a Maha Mudra practice, and it's on the YouTube channel. You can go find me teaching it many other times. But the reason I'm teaching it, the reason it is taught, is to start to wake you up to the size of your attention. Start to wake you up to the artificiality of the boundaries of your attention, the sort of illusion of those boundaries. Now, for those who have been with me for a while, you may know that we're sort of practicing global concentration here. I've been coming at it a different way, but we're sort of allowing our attention, if we're not using the breath, we're allowing our attention to go where it wants to, but we're really paying attention to whether it's small or big, wherever the attention happens to find itself. Small, medium, or big, small, medium, small, all the little sizes. Okay. So we do that. We do that every day. We take a little time to stop solving problems. And at first, it's almost impossible. And then slowly, slowly, it starts to seep into the rest of our life. And you can keep sitting if you want, or you can start to move your body. Being still is a part of the practice, but moving is part of life. So we want to re-acknowledge how okay and beneficial that is. I like to give my body a little bit of thank you with some actual gentle touch. Okay, wipe your forehead, and your cheeks, your jaw, your head, your shoulders, your belly, your kidneys. And you can stand up if you want to and move around.